So the news coming out of EA is absolutely disastrous. Let's get into it.
Skip it up and that up.
So it seems that even when companies are having a record revenue year like Activision, they still think it's necessary to lay people off. Because why not just maximize your profits and ruin other people's lives while you're at it? If you remember back in mid-February when Activision Blizzard laid off 800 employees, even though they made a ton of cash in 2018, this is the reason why they said they laid off these people. We saw weaker than anticipated retail demand. We will not improve retail monetization as quickly as we liked. Again, 2018 was a record revenue year for Activision, but they still laid off people. Corporate America, ladies and gentlemen. Well, if you also remember, in early February, EA stock took a beating because their third quarter earnings were disappointing. And EA CEO Andrew Wilson explained why that happened. This is what he had to say. We made some calculated decisions that did not work as planned in quarter three, and we did not execute well in other areas of our business. Against the backdrop of a very competitive quarter, the combination of those factors led to our underperformance. While we are disappointed with the results, we understand where our challenges are, and we are deeply focused on applying the strengths of our company to address them going forward. And how do they address these challenges they face at EA? They laid off people in their Japan and Russian offices. 350 people were laid off. It's mostly in the publishing and marketing departments. And yeah, 350 people now don't have a job. Of course, they're going to give them severance packages and try to find other work for them, which, okay, that's good. That's a good thing that they're doing. But these people now don't know if they're going to have a paycheck. Maybe, what is the severance package going to be? 6 months? Usually is what it is. What happens after that if they don't find a job? Isn't that a comforting thing? Longevity at any company is a myth now. It doesn't exist anymore. Not just in the gaming industry, in corporate America, across the board. It's unreal. Well, this is a blog post from Andrew Wilson on EA.com regarding these layoffs. It gets better. I'm going to read this to you. Things get much worse after what I told you, but let me read you his statement and then we'll continue. Today, we took some important steps as a company to address our challenges and prepare for the opportunities ahead. As we look across a changing world around us, it's clear that we must change with it. We're making deliberate moves to better deliver on our commitments, refine our organization, and meet the needs of our players. As part of this, we have made changes to our marketing and publishing organization, our operations teams, and we are ramping down our current presence in Japan and Russia as we focus on different ways to serve our players in those markets. In addition to organizational changes, we are deeply focused on increasing quality in our games and services. Great games will continue to be at the core of everything we do, and we are thinking differently about how to amaze and inspire our players. This is a difficult day. These changes we make today will impact about 350 roles in our 9,000 person company. These are important but very hard decisions, and we do not take them lightly. We are friends and colleagues at EA. We appreciate and value everyone's contributions, and we are doing everything we can to ensure we are looking after our people to help them through this period to find their next opportunity. This is our top priority. Well, it doesn't just seem there's 350 people being laid off from the Russian and Japan offices of EA. It seems that EA has closed them down completely, as in they're going to cease to exist. There's going to be no EA branches both in Russia and in Japan. It was reported by Famitsu that EA Japan is completely closed down, and EA confirmed that information with GamesIndustry.biz. So it's coming from EA, it's valid. EA Japan is no more. EA said they still see Japan as an important market. Now that they don't have a branch there, I guess they're going to publish maybe with another Japanese company, maybe Sony, maybe, Square, who the hell knows, but EA Japan is gone. And a Russian media site called Kanabu confirmed that EA Russia is shut down and the Eastern European EA office is going to take over publishing and marketing, so that mystery solved. That's how games are going to be published in Russia by EA. So there you go. I think I may have mentioned this story before, but I'm sure due to the circumstances here, a lot of you are going to be newer and haven't heard it. There was a time, especially in the States, and I believe it was in European nations throughout the world, when you worked for a company, a lot of times you got out of high school and you worked for that company until you retired. It was funny, when I worked at IBM, there was a lot of people there that were lifers, and the whole environment of IBM changed, and every day those lifers were nervous that their job was going to be taken by some contract staffer that was going to be paid a third of what they were paid, if that at best, and that they were going to lose their job. But there was a time where IBM took care of its employees. When the Watson family was still in charge of IBM, People stayed there forever. That was they worked for IBM from when they got out of high school until they retired, and they lived comfortably. But those days are gone, man. The companies have no loyalty to their employees anymore. It's all about maximizing profit and getting the biggest bonuses for the top dogs that are there, the chief financial officers, the chief executive officers, chief operating officers. Those guys want to make sure they get their multi-million-dollar bonuses, which could probably be the salary for at least a dozen of those employees, if not more. And even though these guys are making millions with stock options and just their normal salary alone, let alone their bonuses, they're like, let's just trim the fat, even though these people probably are somewhat necessary. We'll find out, we'll have another office take it over so I could buy another yacht. If you think I'm kidding, look into it, man. This happens everywhere. You have people barely scraping by, being laid off because to these corporations, they're expendable. And to these CEOs that have no loyalty to this company, who will jump with their golden parachute being held on tightly, sometimes these people get fired. I always use the former Sega CEO, Bernie Stoller, who basically... yeah, there was other things at play too. Sega just made a ton of mistakes with the Saturn, and you could go into how the 32X really hurt the Saturn and a bunch of bad marketing moves. But Bernie Stoller really did some dumbass things when he worked at Sega. A perfect example is when he knew the Dreamcast was coming and it was still ways off. He said in an interview that the Saturn is not our future. Here's a guy who is the key businessman or key representative of Sega, okay? And the console is still their main console. The Dreamcast is still a couple of years off, or at least a year and a half off. And he's telling people, yeah, it's not our future. Sales, even though they were already hurting already, went boom with the Saturn. What an idiot for saying that. And he also, he did do a few good things, I should say, with the launch of the Dreamcast. He really got it off the ground in the States, and he did what he could with that. But he also, messed with the pricing, and Sega of Japan wasn't happy what he did with the pricing of the Dreamcast, and he got fired. Now, whether you agree with the reasons or disagree with the reasons he got fired is not the case. You and I, average Joe Schmoes, get fired from a job. What do we get? Nothing. We just get fired. We get shit canned. We may get the rest of our pay that we worked until we got fired. Bernie Stoller, after he got fired by Sega of Japan, left with a $5 million severance package. He screwed up, they didn't like his performance, and he gets $5 million. Can I screw up royally and get $5 million? But that's how the corporate system works, man. It's meant to keep the rich in power and keep the average Joes down and have them have no job security. And they hold them like marionettes like this. And what happened with EA now, with them just shutting down EA Japan and shutting down EA Russia, and what happened over at Activision Blizzard with laying off 800 employees when they had a record-setting 2018 is more proof of that. They don't care about the employees. They care about lining their own pockets. And most of these guys, these chief financial officers, chief executive officers, they know they're only going to be at the company for a few years. They make their tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. They leave with the golden parachute and leave the company in ruins because their pockets are lined and the rest of the employees' lives are destroyed. And they only care about themselves. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one.